So Robert Whittaker returned to form against Paulo Costa, and I've seen mixed reactions to it. Some people saying Whittaker looked superb, and I think he did look superb. Other people talking again about this fight being really, really close, which is something I just do not agree with. Yes, it was competitive, but it was not close from a scoring perspective. You could make a case for Whittaker even winning the first round because he lit Costa up before that head kick. And one of the things that Whittaker did do, which really, really bothered me, is that he had his left hand down low, as I've shown throughout this video via these screenshots. His left hand is not protecting his chin most of the time. It's down around his waist. You see this right hand that Costa threw, which did clip Whittaker, and here is the head kick in slow motion. And Whittaker would have just given himself a much better chance of not getting caught as much as he did if he kept his left hand up. I know it's second nature for karate style fighters to not fight with their hands up. Traditional karate competitions don't allow punching to the face, so it's just it's second nature to them. But this is fighting, and I just really don't like that Whittaker has his lead hand down like that, because I did a short video talking about Paulo Costa's chance to win the fight, and I didn't think it was going to come from a head kick. I felt it was going to come from intercepting Whittaker's blitzes like Duplessis did. And here are some slow motion, or some screenshots I took in slow motion of Whittaker's one moment against Jared Cannonier where he was rocked by one punch. You see Whittaker with his hands down around his waist. 2 seconds later, Cannonier steps in with a lead jab and buckles Whittaker. Now, I don't think Whittaker was as hurt as some of the media were saying, and, not just media, but people like Joe Rogan were talking about how Whittaker was hurt and how a 5-round fight would have been different for Cannonier, etc. I never believe that nonsense. I think the media has an agenda, but nonetheless, Whittaker did feel that punch. And the exact same thing happened against Duplessis. You see Whittaker, hands down around his waist on the outside. Duplessis steps in with a jab, and Whittaker, this made it worse, he stepped in with his lead hand down. And you just can't do that against these guys. Whittaker was able to get away with it when he was younger. He was an up-and-comer, and he was able to do it to fighters like Yoel Romero and Jacare, etc. But as devastating and dangerous and as great as Yoel Romero was, particularly the version Robert Whittaker fought twice and beat twice, Romero was not a traditional modern fighter in the sense that he didn't use traditional skills in terms of jabs and setups and everything like that. His style was all about moving around and throwing crazy stuff out of nowhere repeatedly. And Whittaker was able to avoid that by having that long-range karate-based style. Against guys who are known for jabbing, can land jabs from different angles and do it with power, especially when Whittaker has proven to not be one of the biggest middleweights in the world, this is a problem. I do not see how he could fight guys like Sean Strickland, a rematch against Duplessis, a rematch with Jared Cannonier, and have his hands down like that and win. This is something Whittaker needs to address. I really, really hope he does. When he talked about how the Duplessis fight was the kick up the backside that he needed, I was hoping it would be to address certain errors in his game like this. Because Robert Whittaker is a complete fighter. There's very few weaknesses in his arsenal. But because his chin has been changed forever by Yoel Romero, he cannot, in my opinion, rely on having his hands down like that. He needs to keep them up because his chin is not the same as it used to be. Anyway, that's just some constructive criticism. What I really liked about Robert Whittaker is that he had an extra edge about him. You can see him here in this pre-fight interview where the reporter was not asking good questions. He had a serious look on his face where he thought, I just want to get this over and done with. I'm here to fight. I'm not here to talk rubbish. And you saw him here after the fight yelling at the camera. You see him here with that chest bump afterwards when he was announced as the winner. We saw his chest bump and his mean mug at the weigh-in and as he entered the octagon. This is the edge that I felt Robert Whittaker may not have had for his last few fights. He certainly didn't have it against Darren Till or even Jared Cannonier the first fight and Kelvin Gastelum and Adesanya in the rematch. I just feel that, I don't know if Whittaker suddenly lost his edge and he talked about, and maybe that's what he needed, he talked about needing to get back, but he didn't seem to be as mean as he used to be when he was a 26-year-old champion. Like, Robert Whittaker is a good person, as we all know. The way he carries himself, the way he treats people, etc. Nobody has a bad word to say about him. But in the cage, he is mean. He is all business. He is nasty. I just felt he lacked that for the last few fights. He brought that back for this fight, absolutely. And Paulo Costa did surprise people because of the layoff, and he seems to just be more of a celebrity fighter than a real fighter these last few years. Well, he proved that he is serious. He is very dangerous. And Whittaker, he didn't get the finish, but aside from that head kick, I felt he won most of the fight. So I was happy with his performance. I, again, really hope he addresses that defense issue, and I'm going to make another video about how he matches up with the rest of the middleweight contenders, because I can see him beating Cannonier in a rematch. I can see him beating Strickland. But we just have to accept at the moment that Whittaker, because he's not a super big middleweight, he doesn't have the finishing power that a lot of these other guys do. So therefore, and a lot of people are talking about this, he's a guy who needs to remain perfect for the entire fight, because again, that chin is no longer the same that it used to be. And that is a potential problem, because Cannonier, as we've seen, does not go away, and nor does Sean Strickland. And I said to somebody on Facebook, who may or may not be in my Facebook group, how he feels Robert Whittaker beat Strickland fairly decisively, and I'm certainly not disagreeing with that. I think he could, but Strickland's boxing may not look all great, but it is lethal. I mean, just ask Israel Adesanya. He landed one punch on Adesanya and had him scared for the rest of the fight. So Sean Strickland's boxing is very dangerous, and I can see him beating Robert Whittaker. So drop your thoughts down below. How do you think Whittaker matches up with the rest of the guys in this division? And what do you make of his legacy and where he stands in the all-time great middleweight discussion? Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more.